So this will be recorded and we will have it at least on the Pittsburgh YouTube channel. I'll add a link here in a little bit. And then maybe some other YouTube channels too as well. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming to our Pennsylvania wide meetup. I think maybe we'll just go through and introduce the groups. So who wants to go first and introduce your group to the group?
Make Liam go first. He's so quiet.
Yep. Come on, Liam, go for it.
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate that. Hi, folks. I'm Liam Dempsey. I'm lucky enough to be an organizer of the Philly Burbs WordPress Meetup. And like all of you, we're on Zoom, but hopefully within the next few months, we'll be meeting mostly in and around the western suburbs of Philadelphia. We tend to meet when we're in person on the first Monday of the month. Oh, and we're not on Meetup. We're at burbswp.com. We left Meetup about a year or so ago when we decided we were done with it. And welcome. Thank you. Good to see you all.
I'll jump in, Kevin, unless you want to. I'm Amy from the Philadelphia WordPress Meetup group here with Kevin Cristiano. And we've been meeting virtually for a year now, and that's the way we're going. You can find us on Meetup, and our next scheduled session is the 15th at 7. We're going to do a help desk, so that'll be a nice open forum for people to bring their issues and come up with solutions together. Welcome. It's good to see you all.
Cool.
I'm Kim White with the Lehigh Valley WordPress Meetup. I don't know, we haven't talked about when we're gonna, but hopefully sometime soon, meet in person. Otherwise, we meet the second Thursday of the month, and we'll either meet in Bethlehem or Allentown.
Cool. Vicki, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Vicki Weed. I run the Carlisle WordPress group. It's kind of small. Typically, we were meeting the third Thursday of the month in person prior to COVID in downtown Carlisle. And since then, we've gone virtual, but we really haven't done anything for the past few months. So this has been a great opportunity to get us all back together again. So thank you, Renee.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have anybody else here other than us? Anybody else from the other groups?
Yeah, I could talk about Lancaster.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Corey. I was like, I know him, but okay, yeah, cool.
We're another small group, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Considering getting off meetup.com right now, so we're kind of in flux, and maybe that's why you didn't think of me, but glad to be here. Good to see everybody. We'll see you in person soon for sure. Cool,
great, awesome. And I'm Renee. I and Terry are the organizers of the Pittsburgh group, and I honestly haven't even thought about a meetup in person. Like it just wasn't even a thing. Like, oh yes, maybe we'll have meetups in person someday. I normally do them the first Tuesday of the month. Terry maybe the first Wednesday of the month, but really it's a free for all at this point. So
yeah, it's a free for all.
We meet when we meet. We let you know ahead of time, so that people can make it. So and we have been recording the meetup, so we put them on YouTube, and so that people can watch them in case they are not able to come to the meetup. So cool. So let's meet our panelists. We have 4 panelists here. So let's meet our panelists, and they can introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with some questions. So Terry, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, I'm Terry Chedich. I've been playing with WordPress for like 15 years now. I don't know. I've lost count. I build sites. I fix sites. I make sites do tricks sometimes. It depends on what people ask me to do. I do some work directly with clients. A lot of what I've been doing for the last couple of years, though, has been subcontracting for somebody else who is better at marketing than I am. And I'm okay with that because she gets to handle the marketing and I get to build websites, and then we're both happy and we both make money. So yay. That's the easiest way to do it, I think.
Awesome, thanks.
Who's
Yordo?
next?
I think Yordo. Well, he's next on my screen, so.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for inviting me onto the panel. My name is Yardell Perkins. My private company is called Perkatech. I assist individuals and organizations with either creating or reestablishing their digital presences, typically through any combination of a website, usually WordPress, branding or digital marketing plan. As far as my niche, the half joke I tell people is that the real estate niche chose me. I never chose it or any other, but I'm here to help anyone who wants to have a conversation about building their digital platform or rebuilding it if they already have one.
Awesome, thanks. Lauren, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I am Lauren Pittenger. I am a front-end engineer, which is weird for me to say, at Web Dev Studios. I also do some freelancing on the side. And I like to work with a lot of small, like entrepreneurs. I love working with life coaches and photographers and that sort of client. So it's kind of like one extreme from the other. Like, well, I don't have anything to do with like sales or marketing at Web Dev, but yeah, the enterprise clients to the very small one-person businesses. So I live in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And Mark, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Conzola with Peculiar Pixel, and I feel like the small fish in the big pond here with everybody. My WordPress journey relatively has been very small, and we just started our business. I left my full-time job, and we started our business the December right before COVID became COVID. And praise God, our business has done very well for us. You know, we started our business with no prospects, just money saved in the bank, and you know, me and my business partner trusting in one another, and we've been able to be pretty scrappy and grow this year. So I just feel honored to be here sharing, you know, some perspectives from that small starting WordPress business side of things. And seeing how, you know, other people that are further in the journey can add their input as well.
Yeah, awesome, great. So great question in the chat already, which is a great place to start, is what do we mean by onboarding for this discussion? So my interpretation of onboarding, and we'll see if the panelists came prepared for my interpretation, is that you have signed the client. Maybe they've paid, maybe they have not. Maybe, you know, that's part of your process. But basically, it's a yes, it's a go. And then what? So then once there is a yes, you know, whether it's in signature form or verbal, what is the process after that? So what happens next? So that's actually my first question. Is, you know, without spending, you know, 25 minutes a piece, what is your brief, you know, what's your brief overview of your onboarding process? What are the steps, you know, maybe, I don't know, you know, 4 or 5 things that you do in your process? Can you explain it? And I'll ask more questions as we get in, you know, I'll ask about specific tools. I'll ask about what's the most important part of your process. I'm giving you all the questions, but that kind of thing. So, but whoever wants to go first, and if you don't want to do that, I can call on you too, but yeah, so what's your overall onboarding process? And yeah, where do you start? What is onboarding to you? Go for it, Mark.
The first thing I want to mention, when I started writing out my notes, I included notes for that, but I also included my notes for drawing the lead along to become a client. So if you don't want me to talk about that now, I can talk about that later. What would you prefer?
Yeah, maybe let's just stick to that part. I feel like that's a whole other discussion, and I think valuable information. So maybe, like, you know, later on in the call, we could talk about it. Or, you know, I don't know how you work, but like, what if you wrote a blog post about that, or wrote a LinkedIn post about that? I'm sure we would all like that. People like takeaways from, you know, these sorts of things. So if you had anything, you know, anything to give us, you know, that would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up before I went into that and leave that out there, that there is that content too, if you want to get to it. But I mean, after the person has said yes to their contract, while they're, I'm still not considering them a full client until they've paid their first invoice. We tended to do at first just one payment at the beginning and one payment at the end, which is like the remainder of the bill, because we kind of will estimate things in a cost range. But now we're doing upfront, middle portion, and then a final payment. So after they sign their contract and pay that first invoice, now I consider them a client. And then at that point, the immediate thing that I do is kind of drop them into our core group of tools. So we use Asana for project management, and we structure their project in Asana into sections based on all the major deliverable categories within their proposal. So if there's a media portion and a website portion and a social media portion, that's how we break their project in Asana up, and then we organize our tasks under those sections. We also add them to Dropbox and set up a file structure for their project, and we have a specific structure that we utilize. And one of those folders we make for them is a final deliverables folder that we'll be able to share with them at the end, so they can download all of those final deliverables. We also utilize Dropbox Paper for all of our collaborative note-taking with them, so they get a folder structure there. We add them to Toggle, which we use for our time tracking. And then we give them access to a link to Calendly events that we have set up for ongoing project meetings that they can request as they need it. Once I have them into all those core group of tools, then I will plan out a detailed kickoff meeting. And, you know, that could include reviewing the proposal, establishing agreed upon milestones in the timeline, identifying the initial steps of the project in depth, both on my end and on their end, and, you know, letting them know what's going to come just immediately after those steps are completed. So then I'll reach out, we'll set up a meeting. We have that project kickoff meeting that just continues to grow that relationship with them and that trust with them. And as part of that, using Dropbox Paper, we have a meeting history document that we keep, and we put the running notes from every single meeting that we have into one document. And they can always link back to that document and roll through all of the notes from every conversation that we've had, so that they can just have a running history of that, and we can always refer to it as well. Yeah, and we schedule that meeting, we get in there and figure out what everybody's next steps are, and we're off to the races. I'm kind of a fan of like agile thinking. It's, okay, what's my immediate next step? What's my client's immediate next step? Keep that in front of them, and then just give them a little taste of what's next. Hey, once that's done, then I'll do this. And it just kind of helps them break everything up, and they realize there's a little bit of wait. I need to do this before he can do this. And then we just keep stepping through the process together. So that's kind of our process in a nutshell for bringing everybody into our scope of work and then getting the project going.
Cool. Very nice. Who wants to go next?
I gotta say that's very super organized, and now I feel like I shouldn't be a panelist anymore. But Mark, you said you do work with a business partner, right? So there's that other person that you have to share things with.
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think, you know, kind of helps maybe sort out the process before the clients get involved, part two. For the most part, a lot of my clients, the ones that I'm working with directly, tend to be very small businesses, single, you know, entrepreneur, single person shops. And for some reason, the people that don't really know how to work any technology gravitate towards me. So while I would love to, you know, have all of that kind of stuff set up in the Dropbox Paper, they would still email me things and be confused by Dropbox. So my onboarding process is basically, once I get the contract and the deposit from them, I send them, I have an onboarding PDF that includes like, here's a list of things that I need from you. And it is, you know, I need your logo in this kind of format, so that when they send me a 200 pixel wide JPEG, right, I'm like, no. You know, what are your brand colors? Don't send me a picture that you took of a business card on your phone. I need the actual colors. Or their preferred fonts. I always ask for the content up front because it's much easier to design when I know how many words are actually going to be on the page, or we can cut stuff, or, you know, whatever. But yeah, so I start with that list. And then I also have like a business questionnaire that I ask them, again, to go through, like, what are your goals? Not that I haven't already asked them that, but, you know, sometimes during the discovery and they're thinking of more things, something else always pops up in there. I'll ask for, you know, what are some websites you like and why? I like the colors on this one. I like the header on this one. I hate this website. You know, that kind of thing gives me feedback, because while I know we're designing for their audience, they have to like it too. So I like to know what they like. And then I usually sit back and wait forever for them to send me the content, because they can send me like, here's our crappy logo, and here's 2 colors that I know, and then the other one is that purple. That purple. Oh, okay, that one's easy. So there's a lot of education, I think, in the onboarding process for managing the expectations and trying to get them to understand what you need and why you need it. I do not seem to attract the clients that are time efficient with their replies. So there tends to be a lot of hurry up and wait, which is why I like having it in a nice little PDF that I can send to them multiple times when they lose it and I have to send it to them again. Somebody teach my clients how to use Dropbox paper.
That's one of my questions for later. As soon as you said that, I'm like, Dropbox paper. Okay, question later. I wrote it down. Yardell, how about you? How does your process go?
Mine's is fairly straightforward. What will happen is I will have sent them a estimate and a proposal after I've gone through some questionnaires about what they're looking for and what they have in mind, what they would like, what their clients or customers might like. And after they've approved that and sent the initial payment, there will be a Zoom meeting where we'll get together, and also I will open up Asana, create a board for the project, and we'll start to just come up with a general idea of what the preferable timeline for the project is and what's going to happen once a week. And it'll be, okay, who are the people that need to be involved on this project, even if I'm just CCing them on the emails? Who do I need to be speaking with once a week? And it will generally be what day of the week in general is good for us to meet once a week, just to sit down and talk about where the project's at and where it's going, even if that's the only time we speak between a previous meeting and a current meeting. And the project pretty much expands from there.
Very cool. That's a good idea, the meeting once a week, you know, like just checking in regularly. Lauren,
Can
what
I
about
ask
you?
you about that, Yardell? Do you actually have clients that do stuff week to week? And I don't mean that in any sort of negative way. It's just like, I've tried to do that, and I've had clients that insisted on weekly meetings. And then so I get to the meeting and they're like, so I didn't do anything. And I know
It's
you're
not,
still waiting on all this stuff, but, you know, like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, nothing, because you haven't sent me anything. So I'm curious how that actually works. Like, does it work as intended, or do you find yourself, and how long are those meetings typically scheduled for?
well, yeah, to answer your first question, it's not that every week I'll be expecting a client to have something done for me. It'll be more so I'll be expecting to update the client on things I've done or what I'm supposed to do, or more importantly, things I wanted to get done in that week and may be stalling for some reason. It's literally just a check-in process. So I can tell them where my deliverables are at for that week. And if they have deliverables, I can ask where theirs are at. As far as the length of that call, I set aside an hour for it. But again, depending on what I'm expecting to report to them or what they're expecting to report to me, it could turn into 3 hours. Or I actually had a call this morning for a check-in, and it was scheduled to be 90 minutes over Zoom, but one of the two people I was supposed to be meeting couldn't make it for reasons that I can't go into. So the other individual just called me on my phone, and when we got on the phone together, we were just talking for 15 minutes, and it was me saying, okay, this is everything I did over the past week, and they were reviewing it and saying, okay, this is great, we're happy, and then we were talking about what we're going to get done over the next week. So that's how that's going. For this particular meeting, the client had nothing for me. For the next meeting, it'll be more so I'll have something for them, and they'll need to have something for me if they haven't gotten it to me by then.
Cool. Lauren, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I also I don't consider like, until my client has paid, I don't consider like it a project at all yet. Unless it's so like, my process kind of depends on the type of project, who I'm working with. If it's somebody that I've worked with before, who I have a relationship with, we've done projects before together, then I'll just like dive right into getting to work. I won't like bother with having a call first or like sending out a let's get started email. I'll just like get to work. But if it's somebody new that I'm working with, like I said, I wait for them to pay, and then I really just send them an email, like a let's get started email. And before I ever do that, I really try to set expectations from the very beginning. So from the time that, you know, I have a consult call or whatever you call the call with the client before they are a client, setting the expectations of this is what my process looks like. This is how you can expect the project to kind of unfold. And then in my proposal as well, I lay that all out. And then so once it's like an official project, and I send them that email that says, here are all the things that I need from you. These are my next steps. It's not a surprise. So in that email, I will lay out like, here's like your domain, the specific things that I need from them, like domain access, hosting, the logo, like Terry said, brand guidelines if they have them. And then I try to always like in all of my emails say like what they can expect from me, like what I will be doing next, and then what I'm waiting on from them. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. And then also like setting the expectation of when they should expect to hear from me next. So like, okay, I'm at the mood board stage. I'll let them know that like, okay, by the end of this week, you should expect this from me. And so just like setting that expectation along the way. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
So in these communications then, how are you, is it just email? So Terry, Lauren, is it just email? Yardell, how are you getting that call scheduled? Are you doing an email back and forth? Do you send a Calendly link? I guess, yeah. So yeah, how is the communication? And Mark, so then are you just communicating via Asana once they're onboarded? How does that, so how do those things work?
Yeah, I have a link in my onboarding thing. I actually bought a domain that's just meetwithterry.com that redirects to my Calendly or whatever. And I figure that way, if I ever change it, or if I ever want to direct somebody to a specific thing, and then you can make it just nice and concise. But yeah, that's in my onboarding document. And I try to let them know, like, calls have to be scheduled, because if I'm picking up the phone when they randomly call me, that means, somebody else's project is getting interrupted. So I always try to schedule calls, just make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, I don't have a domain like that. That's a great idea. Or if you like, we haven't expanded our website yet, but if you have like peculiarpixel.com/clients or whatever it is, and there was like a resource, you could do that. On our WordPress sites that we build for people, we have a customized dashboard that reviews all of their monthly managed hosting details. Like, these are all the features you get. Here's how to contact us. Here's how to send a web request. Here's how to schedule a meeting with us. And then as a project is going on, I mentioned Dropbox Paper and how we have that meeting history document. It's so funny how many clients you have to educate on bookmarking. I'm like, you can bookmark a link, and they're like, what? And they just like don't even understand that they could do that. So we have them bookmark that meeting history link, and at the very top of that meeting history document, we always have our link for accessing our Calendly events that are specifically for clients. We also include a link where they can always upload files that we request from them to our Dropbox folder. So they always have that one spot to come back to and click that link. And probably I would say, not with any sense of pride, if you talk to any of my clients, they will tell you that I am a ultra communicator. So you will not get off the hook with me. I use Asana like a mad person, and every single time I send you an email, I have a follow-up task, and I have a specific number of days that I follow up with, so especially like a new client, it's like, I send an email, I give them 3 days, then I send a follow-up, I give them a week, and I let that, and I know exactly then how I follow up with each time. And I'm always including those Calendly links, or like Lauren said, saying, very direct language, I'm doing this right now, but I can't do this until you do this. And I'm bolding, and like, learn how your clients communicate, and figure out which of them just don't even read your email and just reply, and learn how to use text formatting to really draw their attention, or which ones need things broken into unordered lists or whatnot. So yeah, I would just say it's about, like, you have to be really solid at follow-up, and like to the point where they know he's not just going to go away. But we also have in our contract the name is escaping me, but it's basically like a delay clause at this point, because I got burned. Renee, I know I mentioned that we were being frustrated by this. So now we basically have a delay clause that under certain circumstances gives us the right to stop the production of their project, and they kind of forfeit their original timeline, and then they have to pay a fee to get the project started again on our timeline. And if you keep that in front of them at the right time, it kind of gets them moving.
Okay, wait, I need to know more about this magical thing. You have a link that allows people to upload stuff to your Dropbox. Like, they're not just going to Dropbox. How do you do that?
Yeah, so there's you can create a upload folder.
Really?
And yeah, and so you just, like, you can create a hyperlink and say, you can upload files here, and they just click that, and they'll be able to drop files into there, and then you'll get a notification that Sarah Smith has uploaded files, and then it'll even put the person who upload, like the name that they give,
Right.
It'll put it into the file name.
Okay, very cool. I'm gonna have to work on that.
Cool. Okay. Great. All right. Let's see what's next. So what do you think is the most important step in the onboarding process, or what do you wish you would have done from the beginning? What did it take you a while to figure out that you should do? So if anybody here is new, or anybody, you know, has a different onboarding process, what part do you think is the most important thing that people should be doing?
So
For me, oh, sorry.
go ahead, Yardell.
For me, the one thing I learned quickly early on is that for any project, there needs to be a clear understanding between you and the client about who needs to be regularly involved or looped in to the project, even if they're just being CC'd on a regular basis. One of my first clients, which would have been earlier on, one of my first like major 4-figure clients, I ended up effectively firing because in the beginning, I was talking to a group of 3 people and we were working on a project and everything was going fine. Then halfway through, this 4th person showed up and apparently they weren't aware of what was happening. They didn't know a project was going on. They wanted to be brought in, so it was okay, fine, bring them in. But then because they wanted to be brought in, they wanted to be updated on everything from the beginning. And there are situations where things that were done need to be drawn all the way back because they wanted it done another way. And it just got to this point where, luckily, I don't know how I did this. It was subconsciously. I had gotten 2 payments from them. I hadn't spent any of the money. I just said, you know what? Here's your money back. I'm done. I walked away. And no, there was bickering and arguing at that point. But I said, look, slam me, 1-star me. I don't care. I'm out. And I took my no chips and I just walked away from the table and out of the casino. So that's my one major is like, if you have a project, figure out who needs to know what's happening, even if it's just they're being CC'd or anything. So
Yeah,
if
no,
they
that's
come in the back end, they're not being like caught up.
a really good point because I think I know Lauren, you said you work with a lot of like entrepreneur solo, you know, businesses, and that's who a lot of mine are too. But especially with the person I subcontract for, we've run into situations where it's a partnership or there's a, you know, a team or whatever, and we don't have all of the key stakeholders. And, you know, so somebody comes up later. So you have to know, you know, make sure that you have that. And then we had a situation recently where we were specifically told, direct all of your communication to this person. So we did, and they hadn't responded to something. And then this other person was like, well, why didn't anybody tell me they hadn't responded? And we're like, well, because nobody told us we had to. So that caused a little bit of a little sticky wicket there. But yeah, definitely know knowing who you should be talking to. And then the one thing I've learned the hard way is even at the very beginning, because in our, at least for most of us, I think in my head, you know, even from the beginning, I'm thinking about at some point in time, it's going to launch and we're going to go, you know, hosting and stuff like that. And I've learned to ask about email at the beginning, because if they were like, oh, I want to move to your hosting and I have 5 email addresses, and I'm just like, I'm going to go hide under a table now. So I actually have it, and I've added it to my welcome packet, right? Like, I don't host email. Either you're going to have to maintain separate hosting for email, or you're going to have to switch to, you know, Google Workplace, and I can help you get that set up for an extra fee. But I'm not messing with email because it's just a big bag of problems.
Oh yeah, email.
Yeah, lots of great points. Sorry, my cat was like meowing and needed attention. The email is a huge one. We utilize Flywheel as our hosting platform. You know, we have our maintenance packages and people host with us. I just spent the better part of the day rethinking our next version of our hosting plans. But we just get that right out there at the beginning. Like, we don't host email. You can't just make 50 subdomains on our hosting. We don't let you, we just had this with a new client who's coming over. We don't let you store 200 gigabytes of self-hosted video. You know, and some people don't know, they're just they saw some hosting that was $5 a month that gives them everything. And so you got to work that stuff out at the beginning. So great point there. For me, oh no, my mind is blanking. Oh, something I've started doing after we had 2 recent occurrences where basically we had just clients ghost us and then come back all of a sudden and they're like, hey, why isn't this further along? You guys should have been working on this. Like, you could have worked on this part of the project. Well, you know, so what I started doing now is I keep my own notes. Like, when I can tell there's like an event that kind of just like gives me that instinctual feel that something could go awry, I've started keeping my own notes of the development of the project. So I have that with a local business that we just picked up that we're doing a Shopify store for. And there's just been lulls in communication where something should have taken them a day and it's taken them 7 days. And so I'm like, March 1st, Mark sent an email asking for their Shopify store URL. March 10th, they finally sent back their Shopify store URL. So later, if we're like, hey, you know what, your project just got extended by 10 days, they're like, what, why? And it's now I can go back and show an entire history of these are all the delays that happen. And in our proposal, it says that there's a day-for-day delay or day-for-day extension based on certain circumstances. So that's something that I've started doing at the beginning now that just sets me up for good record keeping. So I can just kind of, you know, like a cover your own butt type of scenario. Asana is good for that too. It tracks your, you know, your tasks, but you can change dates around on tasks. So also having some quick notes has been helpful.
Can I ask a quick question, I guess, related to that? Does anybody use a CRM? Because I know with a CRM, like you could track, right, when the messages are coming out and you could make notes about the calls and stuff like that. I know it's possible, but I can't wrap my head around how to use a CRM for web development. And if anybody does use a CRM, I would love to talk to you about it after the show. I don't want to interrupt this, but I'm gonna just throw that out there.
Lauren, did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
Yeah, the one thing that I was thinking of, and luckily it hasn't been an issue for me yet, but I could see it possibly becoming one, where like just managing the scope of the project and really understanding what it is that they want from the start, and then managing change requests for changes and other like additional features or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't have a solution for that, but that was just something that like I don't have, and luckily it hasn't happened to me yet. But
yeah, Laura, it like as we've started, you know, we experienced that with some clients. Part of it was just like getting really clear on the language in our proposal. Like our proposal is like really developed in those terms and conditions sections now. And we're very forward about that. We say, this is our hourly rate for the life of this agreement for extra things. And we've just had to force ourselves to get very upfront. And it's like, oh, like we were making a business card for them, but then they were like, hey, we have an event coming up and we need 3 banners designed. Okay, hey Adam, we can totally do that for you. Obviously that wasn't part of the original project scope, so we're gonna have to utilize our hourly rate for that. We estimate this will take 4 hours, so that would be a cost of this. If you're okay with that, we can move forward. And they can say yes or no. And like, it's amazing. Once you start putting the price out there consistently, they stop asking for things. The other thing that we've started doing is when we make the initial invoice, we make all the other invoices as well as drafts. We use Square, which is just an incredible service for free, aside from like the card processing fees. But we always make all of their invoices ahead of time. So as the project is going, we can keep adding line items to that final proposal. That way at the very end, we're not like, hey, what was that extra charge that we had for them? Did you put this in a note? Did you put, you know, we both know to go to that invoice and just keep adding the line items there. And by the end, we just send it.
So I have a question about, a lot of you had mentioned, doing a kickoff call, maybe not those terms, but, having a call early on, and then, some Calendly links were thrown out there. Are these Zoom calls, or are they phone calls? And if they're Zoom calls, are you recording those? Do you provide those back to the client, or do you keep them for your records? How are you, I guess, maybe documenting that part?
Well, first thing I'll say is any conversation I have with a client is recorded and documented, and I make that clear up front. If they're Zoom calls, they're recorded. If they call me, it's on my work line, which automatically records calls. And when it's done, yeah, always provide copies to the client just for one, record keeping, not so much record keeping, just for note taking from my end, because some of these conversations, they can get long and clients can ask for a lot of things, and it's easy for me to just listen to them. And then I can go back and take notes and say, okay, they asked for this, they wanted this, change that, and I'll go back into Asana if necessary and create the task. But there have been occasions where we've had conversations with clients and they'll say, oh, I wanted this, or you should have did that. And I'll say, no, you said you wanted this, or you didn't ask for that. And it'll be, are you calling me a liar? And it's, yes, sir, or man, I am. And here's the proof that you're lying. And it's like, oh. But yeah, similar to what Mark said about prices. Yeah, when you can put documentation in front of them, said, no, you said X. If that's changing to Y, fine, but don't tell me you didn't say X. It kind of ends those conversations very quickly. And they get offended, they get flustered, but it's like, yeah, be offended, be flustered. You said X. If you want Y, just say, I said X, now I want Y. Okay, fine, let's talk.
I think for me, at least, I prefer to do them on Zoom. Before Zoom was a thing, I would do them on Skype, right? Way back when. Because especially with like Kickoff or Discovery or any of those initial calls, we're doing a lot of like, ooh, well, I want to, like, I like the way this site does this thing. It's much easier to just like have the screen share and be able to make sure that we're actually looking at the same thing and that we're talking about the same thing. So the screen share helps. I don't always have camera on. Sometimes it's just, my little static picture, especially if we're mostly going to be doing screen share. So, I will stress to the clients, like it can be a no makeup day for men or women because, whatever. But I find the being able to share the screen to be really helpful in the whole part of the process.
I don't typically have many calls throughout the length of a project, just because I like doing things with email. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I'm just sitting there like
yeah. And I also just like to be able to see someone's face when I'm talking to them instead of I'm just like awkward on the phone. Just like, don't make me go on the phone. And I don't record. When I have done that, I always think like, yeah, I'll go back and listen to it. And I never ever do, but I just try to take good notes. And then I have a notebook that I can refer back to. So pretty low tech.
So next question, for those of you who are using email mainly for, the onboarding and things like that, how are you managing your email? My email, like sometimes my inbox is like such a nightmare. Oh my God. And then Mark, when you're using Asana and you're inviting the clients, I've also tried to use Asana before, and the learning curve just just how are you educating your clients, to use Asana effectively? Any videos, do you have any here's how to use all of our tools kind of thing? So I guess how two separate questions there for the two groups of people who are doing different things.
Asana is easy because we don't have our clients do anything with it.
Okay. Okay.
So Asana is all internal. My business partner,
Okay.
Kevin, and I communicate through it. And we don't have any type of task management thing for our clients.
Okay.
At this point, we haven't had, I don't know, maybe we hit a project that's so complex, we're like, we need them to be managing tasks. I could see that. If that was the case, I know prior to Asana, I used Trello. And Trello would probably be easier for most clients to get in and visually look at, although Asana now allows you to switch back and forth between list view and Kanban view, or board view as they call it. But yeah, I agree. There's a ton to learn with that. I mean, even just Dropbox paper can be a lot for people, and that's super slim. So we try to utilize Dropbox paper, and we always end our meetings with next steps. And there's Peculiar Pixel, and you can do a checklist, and then we have the client's name, and there's a checklist. So that's how we've been handling that. As far as email goes, I'm like I said about an ultra communicator, I'm on my inbox like crazy. Now because of that, I had to restrict myself. I was doing too much fake work being in my inbox and letting that distract me from the stuff that really moves things forward. So I personally I made the call and I said, hey, I check and send emails Monday and I do it on Wednesday at night. And that's that. And it's amazing how nothing is blown up. It just is what it is. So if a client emails me Thursday, they won't hear back from me until Monday. And it's amazing how people will just adjust. It's been going really well so far. And when I wake up Monday, I don't check my email. I just get right to the things that make the difference. And then I have an extra 2 hours at night that I do Monday because I'm also balancing my wife's business. And I get back in there, I take care of that stuff, and then I'm done. But we have Google Workspace. So we have different email groups set up, like social at Peculiar Pixel, vendors at Peculiar Pixel. So we use vendors at Peculiar Pixel to sign up for any services we use, social to sign up for any social channels. And then I can set up filters. So when they come in, they go to places, they get tagged. And then I also have a simple tagging system for myself that's like waiting, action, and read. And so then as I have things in my inbox, I mark them as waiting. Like I sent something to a client, and I want to see it in my inbox that I'm waiting on this, so I remember it. And then other ones are marked action. So I'm like, okay, I have to do something with this today. So that's a little bit of my approach to email.
Yeah, I use Google Workplace too, and I do a label and a rule for every new customer, right? So
trash.
Snooze. Well, but I have found that even with using I for the longest time refused to use like the promotions, and I just had everything in one folder, right? And then that just was chaos. So even with a lot of that stuff getting filtered out into like the social tab and whatever, there's just still a bunch of crap in there. But if I have, I don't know, trained myself to pay attention to the emails that have a label with them, because I know that I set up my customers with a label. And that also just makes it really easy to find anything related to theirs. So even if it's not coming in from them, if it's a notice that I got from hosting or a support ticket that I had to put in on their behalf or something like that, like I always put the customer's label on it, and it makes it really easy to find stuff. Back in my Outlook days, I was religious about filing things in folders, and labels is as close to that as I'm going to get with Google, right? So yeah, that's just the thing that seems to work the best for me. Although I might have to do the waiting label. I like that one. That one seems like, and then I try really hard to get anything that is not a to-do item out of my inbox. So if they're just notifying me about something, I try to get it right out, archive it, get it out of the inbox, and it's just hanging out in their little Babel folder, so I can refer to it later. But I don't do well at that though, because my inbox is sitting at 6,000 messages right now. So,
Oh boy.
Sorry, Renee, I didn't mean to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
Courage, apparently I'm a girl after Courage's heart
Wow.
there. I got a thumbs up. I have a
Wow.
lot to do, clearly 6,000 messages worth of stuff.
I have a bulk trash label. So if I get something that I could just say, maybe I want to see it sometime, but probably not. And every other day or so I go, show me all the bulk trash. Yes, 334, boom, gone.
Nice.
One of my favorite things to do is to go in, and I'll be in, especially even in the promotions folder, but I'll be like, I don't remember signing up for this email. And the find messages like this, right? Like, I love that, because then I get to watch the numbers drop down dramatically. I do that with a glass of wine and some popcorn on a Friday night. I have an exciting life.
Yardell, do you have any thoughts about how you manage your email, how you manage that, those communications? So like, you're checking in weekly, like how do you know what day to do it and what time to do it? Do you have any kind of reminders or things like that?
As far as email, something I learned from my manager in my last job as a system administrator was, or from a big picture perspective, he taught me, as far as emails, you never delete anything within the calendar year. As far as various projects, you create subfolders in your inbox and dedicate each one to a specific client or project. And that's what I do, where I have one subfolder, which is open projects, or I think it's open clients, one or the other. Under that folder, I think I currently now have 20 folders, each one pertaining to a certain project. And under that folder for each one is broken down into emails for various months and then weeks for that month. And over any given week, what I'll do is, as emails from that client for a client or a project come into my inbox, I'll address them, I'll respond. And at the end of every week, if I don't do it by then, I'll sit down and just organize all those emails into their various folders, just to have them someplace where I can address them if needed, but they're not flooding my main inbox. And back to what my previous manager taught me, I hold on to all of that, at least for what I have now. I'm going to hold on to till literally the end of this December. And then when January comes, if I'm pretty certain, depending on what projects I've closed and where they're at, then I'll either say, okay, delete this, archive that. As far as Asana, one of the things I like about it, which sold me over Trello, is that I can offer clients that deeper level of transparency, where I can onboard them to the specific board of their project, and they can literally see tasks and commentary as it's going along between me and my team. And when all's said and done, we can just assign them to the task and say, okay, we've addressed this. You tell us it's done. It's not we're telling you we did it. Only had one client thus far take us up on that offer, and they were kind of like, well, we're fine with the email, but we'll give it a try. And in the end, they basically said, look, we appreciate you trying, you go on this try hard level, but we're fine just to email. You're doing great. Just email us when you want to check on something. I was like, okay, fine.
Cool. Lauren, anything you want to talk about email?
I just have a label for the client, and I might set up like for it to auto tag or whatever, but if not, I just read it and then I put it in the right place and then I archive it.
Yeah.
And unsubscribing from like all the things really helps, because now I only have like, I have like 20 emails in my inbox. So some of them are actually real, which is
right,
unusual.
So
there was something else I wanted to say, but
yeah,
I forget.
I think I'd kind of like to wrap up here, and then we're welcome to stay on for a while and just, have free form questions or whatever. But my last question is, and I'm going to answer it first because I'm like, oh, I want to tell you about my thing, is I've been using ClickUp, and in ClickUp, you can create the project and you can share a public link to it. So they don't have to sign up for ClickUp. They don't need to learn ClickUp, but they can see all of my tasks and what step we're in and what I've completed and things like that. So, so I think that's my last question is, what other things, and anybody can contribute to this if you want to put some things in the chat. We all like tools and we all like stuff. So what else, what other kind of tools do we need to know about? If it's related to onboarding, cool. And if it's not, then that's fine too. But, what are your like kind of go-to tools that are helpful to you and your business for managing that maybe you didn't mention so far?
I have a very high-tech tool for keeping track of what I have to do.
The notebook. I knew you were going to pull it up.
and so it's my kids and I were joking about this in the beginning of the year. So it's just a planner that I got, but I changed it. Instead of planner, it says quest log, right? Because now it feels more fun, right? I'm trying to gamify it. I've tried using I use Asana for the team for the person I subcontract with, and that works fine. But for my own stuff, my own clients, I've tried Asana, I've tried Teamwork, I've tried Streak, trying to use the CRM thing, right? Like I've tried all kinds of things, but for my own stuff, the thing that works best is the pen and paper notebook, which I know makes no sense with every other technical thing I have. But that's the thing that works best for me. And then that just kind of lives on the desk next to me. I love the satisfaction of getting to actually like check it off. Although Asana, when you check it off and you get the little flying unicorns, that's kind of cool too.
Yeah. Any other tools? Yeah.
As far as tools, as far as my business line, what I'm using for that is, I think, Vonage Business, which is kind of like I guess I'd call it a corporate version of Skype, where I can access the number on my phone. I can also access it for a web portal, and through that does, when I tell it to, it does the automatic recording of the calls, and I can also get text messages that I can receive and respond either online or from my phone. I guess the only downside to it, I guess if it's a downside, is that as far as the text version, I can't get media text like pictures or LOL cats or anything if I need to get down that line. But yeah, that's pretty much been helping me as far as, again, just getting documentation of those calls, even if they're on the go. So I can make sure I can, again, if someone's calling me or I'm calling them, I can more so just listen to them and then go back and review the call.
Yeah, my business number is actually a Skype phone number. I don't think they even offer it anymore, but I signed up for it 10 years ago and I still keep getting it renewed and it still works. So it rings on the Skype app on my phone, but I can also have it just forward to my phone. So if I don't get it while it's in the app, then it'll just forward to my cell phone and I can make calls, outgoing calls from that number through the app or through the software on the computer. So yeah, I don't have to give people my cell phone, which is fantastic because when clients say, oh, I texted you something. Oh, that's not my cell phone number. I don't get texts on it. And I don't want to get text messages from my clients. I want it all in my email so that it's all in one happy little place. And I only have one place to search when they say, hey, did you do that thing I asked you to do? Because I don't want them, trying 15 different ways to communicate with me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Kim, I don't know why they think they could do that. You're right.
Right?
Don't text me.
Because then they send you text messages at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, I was asleep. No, stop it.
I reply with, please email me, because please email me this. Because you can't refer back to a text like you can to an email. If they want us to take seriously what they're asking, they need to ask formally. So.
Yeah, we're experiencing our first moment with somebody who, I mean, I give it to the guy. He's He's a single parent. He runs a deck building business. He's very busy. But we send him emails and there's no reply. And he's like, hey, just call me. Or, hey, just send me a text and let me know you sent me an email. And I just don't want to get in that game of like where he's basically saying, like, and there's even been a moment too where he was like, well, why didn't you guys call me? You know, and it's like, well, like we're working on other things, you know, like I've got to communicate with you when I can, and then you get back to me, like I need you to check your email.
Mhm.
And so I've been trying to follow up with him for 2 weeks now after a follow-up project direction that we've sent to him to get approval to go onto the proposal, and he's not responding. And I emailed him 1 week, then emailed him, and I did text him. There's been no response, and now I'm like, just on principle, I'm like, I really don't want to text him, because then that's only going to keep feeding that, oh, he'll email me and then text me that he emailed me, you know, because it's like you have so much information to share.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't text that or just call and be like, okay, let me talk to you about your hosting plan, you know? So just wanted to comment on that. I mean, tool wise, this is stepping back into just the prior to moving them into their project, but HubSpot for us is something that we utilize, another tool that we utilize a lot for that lead to client part of the process.
Mm-hmm. So one thing, as far as tools, that it is very multi-purpose. It is not just for tracking clients or anything like that, but I just found myself using it a second ago. It's called Text Expander. So you can basically make your own shortcuts. And it comes with a whole bunch of like built-in things for WordPress if you're coding stuff locally. But I use it for like my email address. You can put in like canned emails, and I know you can do that in Google, but you know, this way you could put that stuff anywhere. I use it for my my Beaver Builder license code so that I don't have to go look it up every time. I have like 5 keys that I type in Text Expander, and it fills in my Beaver Builder license code, and it makes me so very happy. But you know, so you could use that for your little snippets, your here's what I need from you list, or your, you know, whatever that kind of stuff is for onboarding or any kind of client communication. Here's my schedule link, right? So, you know, you just plop out your schedule link, or here's the questionnaire that I need you to fill out, and all of those kinds of stuff.
We had a little conversation in the chat about Loom. Loom, I'm all over Loom all day, every day. I'm Looming the heck out. People don't even, like, I don't even write words. I'm like, here's my response, Loom link. But people love it. People love it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, they don't want another video from me, but they love it. People will write back unsolicited. They're like, oh, I love your videos, because I explain to them just on the screen and I just walk through it. So it's so much easier. And I've done them for other things as well. You know, kind of like a welcome to your project. I even do them for proposals. Like, here's your proposal, and here's a video of me walking you through your proposal. This is what everything means, you know, and they can hear me. And if I want to show my video, they can see me. Like, so reuse Loom videos for multiple clients. Yes, if I'm not specific to the client. Yeah, you can send the link to anybody.
Oh yeah.
I use Loom in setting, and I set up a client folder for it.
Yes.
And then you white label CMS, and I put a link in the dashboard to their Loom videos, and they die over that.
Yes, here are all of your videos, everything I've ever told you. That yes, and it's a big educational thing for them, because I'm like, you know, if they're like, hey, how do you do this? I just record the video and then they can refer to it again. And people sometimes say I talk fast. I don't know why. So they can pause it, and then they can, like, you know, go through it and take their time and stuff. So for my students, I use it really all the looming all the time.
And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that would be fantastic for, I mean, because for client feedback, like I obviously I prefer to be able to meet with them, let's get together on Zoom or whatever and look at it at the same time. But sometimes that doesn't work.
Yes.
And so if they're looking at it later, it's super easy to just set up Zoom and be like, okay, so can you move this over here and, like fix the padding and the, whatever. I will say one caveat is I had to take Loom off out of my browser because it was blocking print access from a website that I use quite frequently. And I kept trying to print and it would like flash and then go away. And it was the Loom browser thing that was doing it. So Vimeo also has a similar function. If you don't like Zoom or Loom, or you have used up your 100 free videos on Loom, Vimeo has a similar thing where you can do the quick recording from your browser and share it with people.
Any other tools anybody wants to share related to onboarding or not? And if you just want to drop them in the chat too, I will put the chat, I'll put the links. I've been putting some links in here, but I'll add that to our recording so that people have them later.
One other thing that I have found to be super helpful is I actually have a form on my website for the client. So I don't have like a whole full-blown client portal because that would confuse the heck out of most of my clients. But I have just a Gravity Forms form on my site, and I can make it integrate with I can have it send me an email when a client requests a task. I can make it send to, I do use Teamwork for tracking time. I don't know why I can't make my brain use it for task, like actually listing the tasks, but I just have all like one time for my clients, then I track it. So I can have it sent to there too. But I like just having one form on my site that because then it asks them all of the specific questions that I need, instead of them sending me an email with no punctuation and run-on sentences at 3 a.m. and then it takes me 4 more emails back and forth to figure out actually what they want me to do and get all of the information, right? So the form just guides them through what I need from people.
Cool. So let's say this concludes the panel specific. Thank you so much, speakers, and and anybody who wants to stay on and talk some more about whatever. So Mark, if you want to talk about your lead capture process, or if anybody wants to share their own processes, or I don't know, really whatever you want to talk about, we can hang.
I mean, do you want me to just start talking about it?
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have our form on our website integrated with HubSpot, and somebody sends us an interest through that form and they get dropped into the HubSpot pipeline, and we've kind of set up our pipeline to be opportunity, lead, meeting scheduled, qualified lead, direction accepted, contract sent, and then we have like closed won, closed lost, closed follow-up, so on and so forth. And so we just have a, opportunity is I'm out and about in Beaver and I'm talking with a store owner and they happen to mention that like, man, we really need to get online finally, or whatever. I go, but hey, we don't have the space right now to do this, but I know they could be an opportunity. So I go and I add that business into our HubSpot and drop them into our opportunity column, just as a business that I know I could pursue if I wanted to when we need more opportunities coming in. If somebody submits our form or they approach us and say, hey, we'd like to have a meeting with you guys to talk about doing a project, then I enter them into the lead column of our pipeline. And then I start moving them through, like once we actually get an intro meeting scheduled, we move them into the meeting scheduled. After that, depending on what their character is like, what their budget is like, what type of project it would be, we move them into qualified lead, meaning this is somebody we would want to work with, not just they're a warm body that can spend money. We thought that was important for us to really like hold to our values of who we want to work with. So then at that point, what we do is we don't send them a proposal. We kind of start with, we just call it our initial direction. And we say, we could see a project with you, including A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and our rough estimate could be somewhere around this many dollars. If you're okay with us, let us know, and then we'll move on to an official proposal. And they can either come back and say yes, or they could say, actually, I was hoping you were going to add these things as well. Oh, okay. You know, that way we're not wasting any time going into Illustrator and creating our proposal and putting all that time and energy into it, you know, just for all those changes to happen. So then if they accept that direction, we make the official proposal either in Illustrator, or if it's a quick mini project, we use Square contracts instead of our full-on proposal. And they sign that, and it all depends on the circumstances, but we may follow that up with a payment schedule that they agree to, and then we send that first invoice. And once they sign the contract and submit that invoice, then we move them into contract one. And it's nice in HubSpot because you can kind of keep track of money in each of those stages of the pipeline. Like, oh, we've got, you know, $20,000 in the directions sent portion. We need to start moving some of these people forward in the pipeline. Or, hey, it's been nice to see that we have closed this much amount of money in our contracts won, and that's uplifting. Oh, we have $12,000 sitting in contracts lost. You know, why is that? And so and then we have closed follow-up. So these are people like, their budget wasn't quite right, but I could see us still wanting to work with them in the future if things turn out right. So then I always set HubSpot tasks and I'm following up like crazy. Like, we have somebody that moves on, and then I'm like, hey, you know what? Sorry, we couldn't make something work this time, but I'll reach out in a month. And I just want to see how your project's going. And I can't tell you how many times, because they're like, oh, we found another branding company. And I'm like, okay, I'll reach out in a month because I can't wait to see what they do. And then you reach out on the exact day that you said that you would. And they're like, oh, whoa, you really reached out on that day. And they're like, yeah, things didn't work out. And it's like, oh, do you want to talk again? And, you know, follow up with those people that you think you may have lost. If you still think they could be a good source, you'll be surprised how much that follow-up, like I've had people I've followed up with for a year, and now we're finally getting a proposal with them. And then we have unqualified leads, which were the people that we either preferred not to work with or they just weren't right at all. And we move them over there. So you don't need HubSpot for that necessarily. You can use something like Asana or Trello, but having a pipeline set up like that to journey a lead all the way through to a client is something I would recommend.
I use ClickUp. I used to use Trello, but I use ClickUp now and have that same like new lead, emailing, call scheduled, proposal sent, waiting, you know, one lost, referred, you know, whatever it is. And then to get them there, I just, in ClickUp, you can forward an email to the board. So I just use the ClickUp email and it goes right to new lead, and then I can do whatever with it, tag it or anything like that. But you made a good point, and I made a note here about creating a task to follow up, because that's the thing that I'm missing for the people who I've either referred or I know whatever. That's the part where I'm not, but creating a task, you know, in that card, you know, might be a good way to overcome that.
Yeah, and I'm always looking for how do I keep things personal in the email. So I don't know, my mind is like bent towards communication memory. So I'm always remembering little personal things they've shared or things that are going on in their life, or I'm paying attention to things going out and about in the world. So I can be like, hey, such and such, the weather has been really good. Your lawn care business has to be booming early this season. Actually, I need some advice on seeding my lawn. Could we chat sometime? In other news, just wanted to follow up and see if you're ready to have that intro meeting yet. And then they're like, oh yeah, we'd love to chat with you about seeding your lawn. It's easier than you think. And yeah, sorry, we haven't gotten, it just creates that, it reminds them this person is dedicated to me, they're personal, and it keeps reminding them, I might want to work with them.
Like staying top of mind, like. So I would have mentioned too, I have a friend who has such a slick onboarding process. She wasn't from Pennsylvania though, so I didn't mention her, but she adds people to an email list and their automatic sequence of emails of all the things she wants to say, which I don't know. I love it. I think it's so cool. And she uses Zapier to get those people on the list. So they do a thing and then the Zap puts them in the list and then the emails kick off. It's amazing.
It's a little bit like magic. It sounds like,
I know.
right?
I get really jazzed about it. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I was, always appreciate getting to share and hear everybody else's ideas. I'm gonna head out and have some dinner, but thank you all very much again.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you, Mark. Thanks for sharing. Have a good night.
You've been so generous with your time and
expertise. Oh, thank you.
A lot of great information, Mark. Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you for everybody's comments. Have a great one.
Mark did a meetup too. I'll just talk about you while you're gone, Mark. So go ahead.
Well, now I'm like,
I'm just going to tell them about the meetups that you did.
See, so Mark, it's still going to be recorded though, so you can just
so
watch
you can
the replay later.
Yeah. He did meetups for us. Bye, Mark. In January and February on Divi workflows. So even if you don't use Divi, which if you do use Divi, cool, you should check those out. But even if you don't use Divi, like there are a lot of great things like in his workflow that I thought were really, really great to implement. So those videos are on our YouTube channel. I started renaming all of my sections in Elementor after we got off the call. I'm like, ooh, sidebars and headers and footers. Like, I don't know.
Oh my.
It made it better. It was good.
One of the things that I thought Mark said that was really interesting was the different types of quotes and estimates that he uses. And that's definitely a question that has saved me a ton of time.
Mm-hmm.
Always talk money on the first call. And, hey, do you want to pay 8,000? Do you want to pay 2,000? Do you want to pay 40,000? And then inevitably, one of my follow-up questions is, what do you need to make a decision? Do you just need an email? Because I've sent that. We agreed 8,000 pounds with working with a British client. And they, yep, that's what we agreed. Go for it. And other times it's like, can you give me a little proposal, or I've got to take it to the higher ups. Can you send me the full on? Yeah, but that way I'm only putting in the effort that the client needs to read to justify their decision. And I love that Mark shared that. It was really helpful. Saved me a ton of time.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that he could do like we'll say a wide ballpark range for the project, right? Because that's a good way to get the tire kickers, out of the door if that's way outside anything they were planning on spending. They go away. I had a call with somebody probably about a year and a half ago at this point, where she had this really great business plan and she wanted to have, integrated scheduling and this, that, maybe a membership site, and let's have some videos and just like, all of this stuff. And so we get to the end of the conversation. I'm like, well, what's your budget? She's like, well, I don't really have a budget. First red flag. But I talked to somebody else and they were going to charge me like $950, and that's just way too much. And I'm like, and we're done now. Bye. Because, and I was actually very proud of myself, because a couple of years ago, I probably would have been like, yeah, all right, we can make that work. And then, that would have turned into being one of the most needy clients. I've got 2 kids. I don't need anybody else whining at me.
You.
I'm good.
Right. For sure. Anybody else want to chime in or share something? Or
what does everybody use for proposals? I know I saw FreshBooks proposals in the chat, and I saw Proposify. Anybody use anything else? Any other tools?
I just wrote one and use it. this is
The-
what Kirsch will do, this is what you will do, and all that, and this is where you send the money. And
Nice. And this is where you send the money. That's a good
That's
one.
the important part, right?
Right.
The idea of opening Illustrator to make a proposal, I'm just like, but also Illustrator scares me.
in my
so.
proposal, all that stuff that you guys have been saying, well, I need this logo, I need this, that's all in the proposal under the heading of this is what you will do. You will send me the posting information, you will send me the FTP, you will send them this, you will send me that's already there in the proposal. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it, but it's already there.
Mm-hmm. I have it in the proposal too about, who's responsible for what and all that stuff, but I like to include it in the welcome packet because I don't think they read the proposal beyond the number, right? And the signature part.
Right. The other thing that I have to have is who is the one person that is responsible on, on the client side, who is the one person that I have to talk to, and who is the one person I contact about payments being made. So those, that's whoever's the one person, because I don't want to have 6 different people from the organization telling me, oh, well, we need this, or why is that not right, or what. I want one person, because one person will say this and one person will say that, and then there's 3 different ideas going on, and I have to figure out who am I talking to. No, one and only one person that's in charge.
And I admire Yardell for firing his client. That was
it was not an easy thing to do, because again, it's like I had the money, and at the time it was the most I had ever made on my own, and somehow I just had it sitting somewhere. But again, looking at it, I was thankful, because like, okay, you know what, here, take it back. And then similar to what Kirsch just said, I had a similar situation where I was dealing with what was going to be a group of people, and in that instance I had enough foresight to say, look, I want one of you to talk to. If when I'm on the call or an email, that person reaches out to me, I send stuff back to them. If y'all need to have it out and fight on your end, have it out all day. When you make a decision, that one person gets to me.
Give me the winner.
All right, everyone. It was been fantastic chatting with everyone, and good to see some people that I haven't seen in forever. I miss people. I miss coffee shops. But I have kids that I have to go put to bed. So
thank you for sharing, Terry.
Yeah, thanks, Terry.
Keep in
so
touch.
much for inviting me. I feel special. I didn't get headphones. I didn't get fancy headphones, but I got to chat with all of you lovely people. So that's good. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Terry.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, imaginary headphones for everyone. Anybody else have any last things? Anything else?
I'm going. See you guys. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kirsch.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye. This was good.
Thanks, Renee.
Yeah,
Great
thank
work.
you. Thank you, everybody.
Did a lot to pull this together. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it again anytime. Just let me know. And then, yeah, if you want the recording, let me know and I'll send it over if you want to put it on your stuff.
Or at least the link to your site. As long as I have a link and I can embed it in my page. Yeah.
I probably won't do it till tomorrow.
No.
Oh yeah, I'll email.
Yeah, whenever.
But so fast. I wouldn't have done it till May.
I like to get it done. I don't know. But awesome.
Good night, everybody. Good to see you all.
Yeah.
There was a time I would
You
do
too, Corey.
things right after the meeting, but now it's like Saturday.
Yeah, it's late. I'm gonna go.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Yardell. It's nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Holy Land.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.